A professor at the University of Tokyo spent 20 years visiting century-old homes in Kyoto, Nara, and the mountains of Nagano. She wasn't studying architecture. She was studying why older Japanese people, living in rooms of just 20 square meters, report dramatically lower levels of anxiety than people living in mansions in the West. Her conclusion wasn't about the size of the house. It was about what's missing inside it. While you read this, look around you for a second. How many objects are staring back at you right now? How many surfaces in your home are completely empty? If the answer is almost none, this video isn't about decoration. It's about why your house might, at this very moment, be quietly feeding your mental exhaustion. There are 5 things a traditional Japanese home simply does not have, and the reasoning behind it has a name, centuries of practice, and a measurable effect on the human body. Let's go through them one by one. What your house has too much of, and what the Japanese learned over 1,000 years ago to leave out. I finally compiled everything from this channel into a book, The Complete Japanese Woman. It covers your wardrobe, finances, beauty routine, and home, all built around authentic Japanese principles rather than rigid rules. It's not about owning less or doing more. It's about becoming the woman who already has everything under control. And that includes 3 bonus tools to help you get started today: an identity checklist, a finance spreadsheet, and a wardrobe organization worksheet. It's a digital book ready for immediate download. Download your copy via the link in the first pinned comment. Kanso is one of the 7 classic principles of Japanese Zen aesthetics, and its meaning is direct. Eliminate everything that isn't essential, keeping only what has real function or meaning. It's not about having little for the sake of austerity. It's about refusing any object that isn't there for a clear reason. In a traditional tea room, every item has a reason to exist in that moment. The kettle, the cup, a single flower branch. Nothing is there just because, or because it looked nice in the store. Now think about your living room. Shelves full of picture frames you haven't looked at in months. Travel souvenirs collecting dust. 3 remote controls. Old magazines stacked up to read later. None of these items has an active function in your life. They simply were never removed. Conso poses a simple question for every object in the house. Is this here because it serves a purpose, or because I never decided to get rid of it? The difference between those 2 answers is exactly the mental weight your house carries without you realizing it. Pick one shelf or drawer this week and take every object out physically. Only put back what you can justify in 1 sentence. Not with, it might be useful someday, but with a real current function. In traditional Japanese painting, sumi-e, and calligraphy, there's an aesthetic principle called Yohaku no Bi, literally, the beauty of blank space. The idea is that the unfilled space in a composition isn't a worthless void. It's what gives breathing room, contrast, and meaning to what was drawn. That principle moved off the page and into home architecture. A traditional Japanese wall is rarely covered in paintings, photos, ornaments, or floor-to-ceiling shelving. There's a belief that too many images compete with each other, and that a single piece, surrounded by empty space, communicates more than 10 pieces crowded together. Compare that to the common pattern of Western decorating: gallery walls with dozens of frames, shelves completely packed with decorative objects, every inch put to use. The visual result is constant overload. The eye never knows where to focus because everything is competing for attention at once. Yohaku no Bi teaches the opposite. The empty space around an object is what allows it to actually be seen. Pick the most crowded wall in your house. Remove at least half of what's hanging on it. Let the few pieces that remain have real space around them, and notice how each one becomes more visible, not less. There's an old Japanese expression tied to Zen thought: Chisoku suru mono wa tomu. The one who knows they already have enough is rich. Chisoku literally means knowing sufficiency, the practice of consciously recognizing the moment when you already have enough. That's radically different from the common impulse to always look for one more item to make the house feel complete. One more cushion, one more decorative object, one more upgraded version of something that already works perfectly well. In traditional Japanese homes, buying a new object is usually paired with removing another. The house has a deliberate limit on the number of items, and that limit is respected as part of the home's balance, not as a restriction, but as a way of keeping sufficiency visible every day. The opposite pattern, buying continuously without ever removing anything, creates a persistent sense that something is missing, even when the closets are already full. This isn't about the house, it's about a mental habit of never acknowledging enough, and the house simply reflects that pattern in the form of accumulated objects. Before your next home purchase, a decoration, a new gadget, a fresh piece, ask yourself, what's leaving to make room for this? If the answer is nothing, maybe the real answer is that you already have enough. Fukinsei is another of the 7 principles of Zen aesthetics, and perhaps the most counterintuitive for anyone raised in a Western visual culture. It values asymmetry and irregularity as higher forms of beauty, in opposition to perfect symmetry. In a traditional Zen garden, stones are never placed in symmetrical patterns. In handmade pottery, a slight irregularity in shape is seen as a sign of authenticity, not a flaw. Have you already gotten your book, A Woman Japanese Complete? Click the link in the pinned first comment to download the book. Last copies available for download. The logic behind this is that perfect symmetry is static and predictable, while asymmetry carries movement, life, and reflects the natural imperfection of the real world. Many modern homes, on the other hand, are organized around the opposite ideal. Identical pairs of cushions, furniture arranged in rigid symmetry, everything matched and aligned, as if any element out of pattern were a mistake to be corrected. That ideal demands constant upkeep and creates a quiet pressure. The house never feels finished enough because the standard of perfection being chased is, in practice, impossible to maintain every day. Fukinsei gives back the permission for a house to have one isolated object, one unique piece, a slightly asymmetrical arrangement, and for that to be seen as character, not carelessness. Find a room in your house organized in pairs or forced symmetry. Deliberately break the pattern. Swap one item from a pair for a single different piece. Notice whether the space feels more alive or more wrong, and question where that feeling actually comes from. Kekai is a term rooted in Japanese Buddhism that designates a symbolic boundary, a limit separating a sacred or protected space from the ordinary world around it. In Japanese residential architecture, this concept shows up very concretely in the genkan, the entryway area where shoes must be removed before stepping further into the house. That simple gesture carries a meaning bigger than hygiene. It physically and ritually marks the moment when the outside world, work, traffic, the stress of the day, gets left behind, and the house becomes a genuinely separate space. In many modern routines, that boundary simply doesn't exist. The work laptop stays open on the living room table until late at night. The phone with work emails stays within arm's reach the entire time. Outdoor shoes walk freely through the whole house. There's no clear point of transition between being in the world and being home. And without that boundary, the house stops functioning as a refuge and becomes just an extension of the same environment of outside demands. Kekai proposes recreating that boundary, even symbolically, a gesture, a space, or a moment that clearly signals to the body and mind that the protected zone has begun. Create your own personal Kekai. It can be changing clothes as soon as you get home, keeping the work phone in one specific room, or simply taking your shoes off at the door as a conscious ritual, not out of habit, but as a deliberate act of closing the boundary between outside and inside. 5 absences, 5 empty spaces that, together, create something rare, A home that doesn't compete for your attention, that doesn't demand impossible perfection from you, and that genuinely protects your rest from the rest of the world. Kanso, the simplicity that eliminates what serves no purpose. Yohaku no Bi, the beauty of blank space. Chisoku, knowing that you already have enough. Fukinsei, the permission of asymmetry. Kekai, the sacred boundary between outside and inside. None of these concepts requires a renovation. None requires buying anything new. In fact, all of them point in the opposite direction. Fewer objects, less demand for perfection, more conscious boundaries. The question that remains isn't how much extra does your house have? It's what exactly is that excess keeping you from feeling? If this video resonated with you, let us know in the comments which of these 5 points bothered you the most. That's usually the one we most need to hear. And if you want to continue this journey of conscious simplicity, the channel's next video explores the concept of danshari, the Japanese art of letting go in 3 steps. See you there.